So we speak of resiliency among the ever-living tree in the forest primeval. And even though there was a few cut right here, my dear, someone has planted baby redwoods. There's one right there. Here's another one. And there's some ancient sentinels. Look at, that's where they cut these way back in the oxen days. That big stump there and the one I started with. See how they regrow? Look at that. Maybe 100 years old or so. And then the stump is thousands of years old. That one too. So good place to tell you my Squatch story. You want to hear my Squatch story in all its glory? Okay, let me set you down. Well, maybe not. So, okay, maybe over here. When I was in 1991, after my dad died in '88, and got some things squared around in Santa Barbara, I bought a huge piece of land up on the Oregon coast. And I moved up there in October of '91. Left Santa Barbara, and I was learning how to play. I don't know how you can see me, I can't see it. I was learning how to play my djembe, and I had this Toyota 4x that I had tricked out. Oh, there's another tree right here below my feet. And I had Avalanche and Sasha, these two Samoyeds. I used to breed Samoyeds and Akitas. And the road was still kind of clear when I first got there. It was partially logged off. I went there to do my Walden and live your ideals and lose lots of money fixing and making a place better, like bringing light to this little valley. Yachats it's called, and Yachats. When you're hot, you're hot. When you're not, you're not. And there's quite a story there for the natives. Sad, but now I call it the Valley of Despair. But I did bring light there, and it is a beautiful place, but it was rough. So when I first got there, I was really still very bright and cheery and hopeful and ego-driven and accomplished. And so I wanted to learn, and I took this djembe that I had made for me in Humboldt, and I'd been learning for a couple of years, and I didn't want people to hear me, so I would go out in the woods, and I took my two dogs, and I went on the back saddle of my land. This is the Sasquatch story. And my land adjoined Cape Perpetua. It was all private land behind me, and I had a big place. People used to hunt there. I used to chase hunters out. A lot of elk in there, and big sawdust pile from the old diesel donkeys from World War II when they were cutting railroad ties for Europe, and spruce, and cedar. And so the piles of sawdust were warm, and they would attract huge herds of elk and all these animals. There were wild cherry trees and all these things, and I had planted a lot of cedar and put signage up there to keep the hunters out. And this is when I had been there about a year, maybe less, and I was sitting on this huge fir stump looking out over the lower part, looking to the north, and there was a deep gorge next to me, and the sawdust pile was back behind that, and it was a saddle that went up to Cape Perpetua. And then on the other side of Cape Perpetua is Cummins Creek Wilderness, National Wilderness. It's actually in National Geographic. It's a 10,000 acre reserve, 5,000 square acres, something like that, right next to it. So it's this huge uninterrupted contiguous corridor from like Wallport to Florence, and then east through Mapleton all the way to Eugene and Corvallis. It's a big square area in the mountains where there's like just logging roads. I did a bunch of forest restoration projects out there with friends later. So I didn't know that much about Squatch or anything. From Humboldt, I had known the stories from Willow Creek, but I'd never seen one. I'd seen the old movies and stuff, but to me it was just like a myth. And I was really into the elk and stuff, so I used to go back there and learn how to play my drum and sit on this stump and let my dogs roam around, and they were pretty good dogs. They'd stay close. And all of a sudden, the wind was blowing from behind me. It was fall. It was like September. So it was this end of the first year I was there. And in the afternoon, these winds would come up off the coast, and I was 5 miles in where it was sunny, and you'd feel the cold. It would come down off the Cape. And the wind was coming from behind me, so I was downwind, and all of a sudden, the hair on the back of my neck, I just stopped playing. Some primal instinct came over me, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And when it did, I smelled this smell, and I can still smell it. I get chicken skin just thinking about this. And so I was like, huh? At first I thought it was the elk because it was coming up on rut season. It was still a month earlier or so, but they get stinky and musky, so you can smell them. And I thought maybe that's what it was. And then so I played a little more, and a couple minutes later I heard this crack down below me to the side where the gully is, where the wind was coming from, and just up a little bit. And I smelled the smell again, and it was like so pungent. It was like a female human who had never washed and was in estrus and was like part gorilla. I mean, part animal. That's what it smelled like. You'll never forget this smell. If you smell it, you will never forget it. Never ever smelled anything like it. And I could still, like, I could almost taste it just thinking about it. And I was like, wow, what the hell? And I was thinking, man, like my hair was standing up on my neck, and I was like, yeah, I should probably get out of here. So I started to like get my stuff and load up my truck, and my dogs went ripping down the road towards the shop. The shop was like half mile down the road. You had to go around thing, and they never would do that. And they like had their tails between their legs, and they were just booking it. And I was like, what the heck? Somebody rang the dinner bell. And so, and it was just me and the dogs, and nobody in there. And totally private. Like, I bought 150 acres on the map, but it had this hill in the center of it, so it was more than that, and it was surrounded on two sides by private timberland that was not logged and national forest. So it was a very private place. And I smelled, so as I was doing the car, I was about to get in, and I was facing sort of down a little bit, down the gully instead of up the gully, and whatever it was right behind me. And it was pretty close. It was like 30 yards, maybe closer. And another breeze came, and I smelled it really strong. It was like the strongest, and I just quickly looked like that, and I swear what I saw was, it was grayish. It was like the color of my hair. It was like this red and then with gray in it. It was a grayish color, like the native Wapati elk that mixed with the Roosevelt elk. They're more gray. And it was like this. It was like it was tall, because it was crouching, and downhill from me, and it was still like 6 feet up in the tree, its face. And you could see it was crouching, and it was thinner. Probably weighed, I mean, I could see its arm kind of, they looked like branches. It was doing this. It was like looking at me, but being really still. Oh, what the fuck is that guy doing? Like, I was playing a drum, I had these weird fuzzy dogs. My hair was growing out. I'd grown a beard. And I think it kind of was interested. It was curious, and it was female. It was definitely female, I'm telling you. Now, that's my story, and it stuck to my shoe. There's nothing I could do but wipe it off. But that's what happened. And later I heard that there's been sightings in Cummins Creek Wilderness. I just actually heard that recently. And this was in 91. Or 92. This was a long time ago, like September of 92. And, there's such a primal instinct. Like, after I saw the thing, like, kind of doing the tree thing, I intentionally looked away so that it could, like, leave, and I got my truck and split. I had a bright red lifted Toyota 4x4. It was a super loud stereo, and I had been blasting it and playing the drum. So anyway, that's my Squatch story. And it's for reals, cousin. I got some other stories. I'm going to just do like real cool story videos, because people don't really respond to the truth much in like regular form. And when you tell it like underneath real stories, it helps, because I've had a lot of miraculous experiences and magical experiences in my life. Angels and devas and near death and gnome kind of forest spirit things, and Manahoon, which is Hawaiian. All kinds of weird stuff, and flying shit. So, time distortion. Now, some of that when you're young and you're tripping out and you're doing drugs, you can experience that stuff. But if you cultivate sober meditation for long enough, people are always in a hurry, you can have way better, more genuine, more memorable, recallable experiences that you can learn to tap into. Anyway, enough said. That's my Squatch story, and I think since then people have been up there looking around. Anyway, okie doke, let's show you right here. The forest is listening to the story. A lady walked by while we were doing this. There's a trail below me, and she couldn't get away fast enough. Horse walks into a bar. Bartender says, "Hey!" Horse says, "Sure, think I'll have a double. Make mine a double."